I'm sorry, what I stare at my mother, barely processing the words coming out of her mouth. Will you want me to marry Hector Perez? The sleazy, arrogant jerk from college. Mom's lips press into a thin line. He's willing to help with the company's debt. His family has the resources, and it's the best solution for all of us. Dad clears his throat, nodding along like some puppet. I glance around the room, looking for support from my sisters, but they just avoid my gaze like they know how deep in shit we are. I'm not marrying him. No way, I snap, my voice a little higher than I intended. Panic swirls in my stomach. They can't be serious. My life can't come down to this. You will, Mom says, folding her arms, unless you have a better plan to save our company, Sophie. My mind races. What the hell am I supposed to do? They've got me backed into a corner. Hector's face, that smug grin, flashes in my mind, and my skin crawls. Think, Sophie? Think. Actually, I blurt out before I know what I'm saying. I'm already in a relationship. Silence. My parents exchange looks and Mom narrows her eyes at me. With whom, exactly? Shit, I didn't think this far. My eyes dart around the room, searching for some lifeline, and then I see her, Isabel, my secretary, standing by the doorway, her face a mix of confusion and surprise. Isabel, I say quickly. Isabel and I are together. There's a split-second pause where time stops. Then, chaos. What my dad sputters, his face turning an alarming shade of red. Mom's mouth opens and closes like a fish gasping for air. And Isabel, oh God, Isabel's eyes go wide as saucers. Since when Mom demands, her voice sharp, cutting through the tension. I force a laugh, hoping to seem casual. Oh, for a while now, we just wanted to keep it private. My heart pounds so hard. I can barely hear myself over the thudding. My gaze flickers to Isabel, silently pleading for backup. To my shock, she steps forward. That's right, she says, voice steady, but I can see the flicker of disbelief in her eyes. We've been seeing each other for about 5 years. 5 years, Dad echoes, looking like he might faint. Why didn't we know about this? Because it's our business, I snap, feeling a surge of control. And now that you know, there's no reason for me to marry Hector. We're happy. End of story. Dad opens his mouth to argue, but Isabel cuts him off. If you'll excuse us, she says smoothly, grabbing my arm, we have things to discuss. She drags me out of the room, down the hallway. The moment we're out of sight, she spins around, eyes blazing. What the hell was that, she hisses. I panicked, I hiss back. They're trying to force me into marrying that jerk. I needed a way out, and you were there. So, you made me your fake girlfriend? Her eyebrows shoot up. In front of your parents? Yes, I bite my lip, searching her face. Please, just go along with it. At least for now. She sighs, running a hand through her hair, staring at me like I've lost my mind. Fine, she mutters finally, but you owe me, Sophie. Big time. You're staying with me, Isabel asks, eyes widening as I step into her tiny apartment, dragging my suitcase behind me. Just until this whole thing blows over, I push past her, plopping down on the only sofa in the cramped living room. They fired you, Isabel. Fired you because of us. Isabel lets out a harsh laugh, crossing her arms. No, Sophie, they fired me because of you. You're the one who decided to throw me under the bus, remember? I look up at her, the guilt hitting me like a freight train. She's right. I did this. I got her fired. Now here I am, showing up at her door with nowhere else to go. Look, I'm sorry, I say, my voice quieter. I didn't think they'd go that far. Of course you didn't, she mutters, rubbing her temples. You never think things through. Her words sting, but I can't argue with them. I'll pay half the rent, I offer, trying to keep my voice steady, and help out with bills. It's the least I can do. You're damn right it's the least you can do. She watches me for a long moment, then sighs. Fine, you can stay. But we're setting some ground rules. Ground rules, I raise an eyebrow. Like what? Like, you don't make a mess in my space, she starts, holding up a finger. You don't bring your drama here. And she pauses, biting her lip. You sleep on the sofa. I glance at the sofa, then at the single bed barely visible through the open bedroom door. Sure, no problem, I say, nodding quickly. Anything to not end up on the street. Just, thanks, really? Yeah, she grumbles, turning away. Just don't make me regret this. I take a deep breath, trying to push down the knot in my stomach. I'm in this mess now, and there's no way out but through. So I start attempting to break the ice. What do we do next? About, the relationship. Isabel turns back, narrowing her eyes. You mean the fake relationship you dragged me into? She shakes her head. We lie, that's what we do. We lie until it becomes the truth in everyone else's eyes. Right, I mutter, feeling a chill run down my spine. Lie until it's the truth. Listen, she says, rubbing the back of her neck, her tone softening just a fraction. If we're going to do this, we have to make it convincing. That means more than just saying we're together. We need to look the part. I swallow hard, my heart pounding. You mean, act like we're a couple? She nods slowly. Yeah, public displays, talking like we're close, being comfortable around each other. No one can know it's fake. I glance around the apartment, my eyes landing on the bed again. Right, comfortable. Got it. Isabel watches me, her expression unreadable. This isn't a game, Sophie. It's your ticket out of an arranged marriage, and my way of keeping my sanity, so let's not screw it up. Okay, I say quickly. I get it. We'll make it work. A beat of silence passes between us, thick and heavy. Then Isabel lets out a slow breath. Fine, she mutters, turning to the kitchen. And make yourself at home. Just remember you're here because I'm doing you a favor. I watch her walk away, a strange mix of relief and dread washing over me. I'm in too deep now. There's no turning back. Living with Isabel is different. We fall into a routine, an odd dance of pretending we're a couple while tiptoeing around the reality of our situation. Most days we barely talk about it. We don't need to. We're too busy keeping up appearances, playing our roles like pros. Ready, she asks one evening, standing by the door, keys in hand. We're about to head out to dinner with my family, part of the act. I grab my jacket, nodding, as I'll ever be. The ride is quiet, tension hanging in the air. I glance over at Isabel, her face set in a determined mask. You okay, I venture? I'm fine. Just thinking about what I'm going to say to your parents, her eyes furrow, to me, hint of amusement in them, to convince them that I'm madly in love with their daughter. I snort. Good luck with that. They're not exactly buying it. Then we'll just have to try harder, won't we? She parks the car, and I catch a glimpse of her lips twitching into a smirk. Come on, sweetheart, she says, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Let's go make them believe. Inside, my mother eyes us as we walk in hand. The contact sends a jolt up my arm, but I force a smile. Mom, Dad, I say, giving Isabel's hand a small squeeze. You remember Isabel? Of course, Mom replies stiffly, her gaze darting between us. So how's the relationship going? Isabel jumps in smoothly. It's going well, actually. Right, Sophie? She turns to me, her eyes locking onto mine, daring me to break the facade. Yeah, I manage, nodding. Really well, feels strange, but I push through. We've been learning a lot about each other. Is that so? My mother raises an eyebrow. Like what, exactly? I freeze, but Isabel doesn't miss a beat. Well, she starts leaning closer to me. I've learned that Sophie snores in her sleep, loudly. My cheeks burn, and I shoot her a glare, but it's hard not to laugh at the way she says it. You're one to talk, I retort, playing along. At least I don't hog all the blankets. Dad snorts, a small grin breaking through his stern facade. Sounds like a real couple, he mutters, clearly still skeptical, but I see his resolve cracking just a bit. Isabel catches my eye, a silent exchange passing between us. Keep it up, we can do this. The dinner drags on, filled with small talk and pointed questions from my parents. Isabel handles it like a pro, weaving stories of our supposed life together, some so detailed that even I start to question what's real. After dinner, when we're back in the car, I let out a long breath. You were amazing back there, I say, shaking my head in disbelief. I almost believed half the crap you were spewing. She chuckles, starting the engine. It's called acting, sweetheart. Get used to it. We've got to sell this if we want to keep your parents off our backs. Right, I stare out the window as we drive home, a strange knot forming in my stomach. It's not just my parents we're fooling. We're fooling everyone around us, friends, colleagues, and maybe, just maybe, fooling ourselves a little too. Back at the apartment, we kick off our shoes, both of us too exhausted to keep the charade going any longer. I flop onto the sofa, rubbing my face. This is insane, I mutter. Pretending like this, it's exhausting. Isabel plops down beside me, a tired grin on her face. Then don't pretend when we're here, she says, stretching out. When it's just us, be you. No act. I glance at her, surprised by the softness in her voice. Easier said than done. She shrugs. Maybe, but if we're going to pull this off, we need to be real with each other. No fake smiles, no forced lines, just us. I swallow, nodding slowly. Okay, us? Good, she says, closing her eyes, sinking into the couch. Now do us both a favor and make dinner, would you? I'm starving. I laugh despite myself, the tension easing a little. Bossy, I mutter, standing up. Fine, but you're doing the dishes? Deal, she flashes me a grin, and for a second it feels like we're actually normal. Like we've slipped into this bizarre version of reality where we're two people figuring out life together. It's weird, it's confusing, but it's strangely comfortable. As I start cooking, I can't help but glance at her every now and then. She's scrolling through her phone, completely relaxed, as if we've done this a million times, and in the way we have. We're playing this game, this fun, absurd game of pretending to be in love. But what happens when the line between pretending and reality starts to blur? I push the thought away, focusing on the sizzling pan. Dinner's almost ready, I call out. Finally, she groans, sitting up. You really know how to keep a girl waiting. Yeah, well, I reply, trying to keep my tone light. Better get used to it, sweetheart. She snorts, but there's a warmth in her eyes that makes my heart skip a beat. This is dangerous territory we're in, very dangerous. And I'm not sure I want to turn back. Things between us have settled into this odd, almost comforting rhythm. We go through the motions, holding hands in public, sharing glances, even little touches here and there. It's all part of the act. At least that's what I keep telling myself. But tonight, something shifts. Isabel's sitting on the floor by the coffee table, a bowl of popcorn in her lap, eyes glued to the TV. Come on, Sophie. The movie's starting, she calls, patting the spot beside her. I grab a blanket from the sofa, plopping down next to her. Ready, I mumble, draping half of it over her shoulders. She flashes me a quick smile before turning back to the screen. It's just a movie, something light and romantic, exactly what I need to keep my mind off the whirlwind my life has become. But halfway through, an unexpected scene flashes across the screen, two women kissing, hands tangling in each other's hair, their bodies pressed close. My breath catches in my throat. I shift, feeling the sudden heat rise in my cheeks. I force myself to focus on the popcorn in my hand, popping a kernel into my mouth to distract myself. Next to me, Isabel goes still. I feel her eyes on me, burning through the side of my face. "You okay?" she asks, her voice low, almost careful. "Yeah," I say a little too quickly, keeping my eyes trained on the screen. Just wasn't expecting that. She snorts softly, turning back to the TV. "It's just a scene, Sophie. Not a big deal." "Right, not a big deal," I repeat, swallowing hard. But damn, it is a big deal. It's a reminder of what we're pretending to be and of what I've been feeling lately. I chance a glance at Isabel. She's biting her lip, her gaze fixed on the screen, but there's something different in the air tonight, something heavier. The scene ends and the tension eases slightly. We both let out breaths we didn't know we were holding. Isabel shifts, adjusting the blanket on her lap, then looks at me. "So, how's work been?" she asks, clearly trying to steer us back to safer ground. "It's been fine," I reply, grateful for the change in topic, just the usual modeling gigs. She nods, and for a moment, things feel normal again, but that charge moment from earlier lingers like electricity in the air. The movie finishes, and we're left in silence, the glow of the TV casting strange shadows around the room. I clear my throat, standing up. I should get ready for bed." "Yeah," Isabel mutters, standing up as well. "Me too," she hesitates, looking like she wants to say something, but then shakes her head. "Good night, Sophie." "Good night," I reply, heading to the bathroom, my heart pounding. I splash cold water on my face, trying to shake off the unsettling mix of emotions. Why did that scene hit me so hard? Why does every touch, every look from Isabel send my mind spiraling? Back in the living room, I find her already sprawled on the bed, her back to me. My usual spot, the sofa, looks uncomfortable as hell, but the idea of sharing that bed feels dangerous. Still, my body aches from days of sleeping cramped on the couch, so I bite the bullet. I slip under the covers, trying to keep a safe distance between us. The silence is deafening. I close my eyes, willing myself to sleep, but all I can think about is the warmth radiating from her body, the soft sound of her breathing. Minutes pass, or maybe hours, I have no idea. Then I feel it, the slight shift of her turning over, facing me. I crack open an eye and meet her gaze in the darkness. "Sophie," she whispers, her voice barely a breath. "About earlier." My heart skips. "What about it?" I whisper back, my pulse hammering in my ears. "Did it make you uncomfortable?" Her words hang in the air, heavy with an unspoken question. I swallow, my throat dry. "No, not uncomfortable. Just surprised, I guess." She inches closer, her face just inches from mine. I can see the uncertainty in her eyes, the way she's searching my face for something, an answer maybe. And now she asks, her voice soft, almost trembling. I can't think straight. My mind's a mess, but I can't look away. Now I murmur, "I don't know." Isabel reaches out, her fingers grazing my cheek, sending a jolt of electricity through me. It's a feather-light touch, hesitant, as if she's giving me a chance to pull away. I can't. My breath hitches, and before I can stop myself, I close the gap between us. Our lips meet in a tentative kiss, slow and uncertain. It's not like anything I've felt before. It's not part of the act. This is real. She pulls back slightly, her eyes searching mine, waiting for a reaction. "Is this okay?" she asks, her voice barely audible. I nod, my heart thudding so loudly I'm sure she can hear it. "Yeah, it's more than okay." Her lips curve into a small, relieved smile, and then she closes the distance again, kissing me deeper this time. I melt into her touch, every nerve in my body lighting up like a firework. I don't know where this is going, and I don't care. All I know is that right now this is exactly where I want to be. When we finally break apart, she lets out a shaky breath. "Well," she says, her voice tinged with nervous laughter. "I guess we're not faking that anymore, ha." I laugh, burying my face in her shoulder, my mind spinning. "No, I guess we're not." It's terrifying and exhilarating all at once. The line between what's real and what's pretend has officially blurred, and I have no idea what that means for us. But as I lie there tangled up with Isabel, I realize that maybe, just maybe, I don't need to have all the answers right now. For once, I'm okay with the uncertainty, and that scares me more than anything. The next morning, I wake up to the sound of rain tapping against the window. For a split second, everything feels normal, warm sheets, the faint scent of coffee, but then reality crashes back. I turn my head and find Isabel lying next to me, her eyes fluttering open. She looks at me half asleep, her lips curving into a small smile, and suddenly it's real. "Morning," she murmurs, her voice raspy with sleep. Morning, my voice comes out strained. I force a smile, but inside I'm a mess. What the hell happened last night? We kissed. We really kissed. And it wasn't part of the act. Coffee, she asks, stretching her shirt riding up just a bit. I tear my eyes away, nodding quickly. Yeah, coffee sounds great. She gets up, walking to the kitchen, leaving me alone in bed with my thoughts. I replay last night over and over in my mind. It wasn't planned. It wasn't fake. And the way it made me feel, that was the scariest part of all. Isabel returns with 2 mugs, handing me one as she sits on the edge of the bed. You okay, she asks, eyeing me cautiously. Yeah, just processing, I admit, taking a sip to avoid her gaze. Right, processing, she bites her lip, staring into her cup. So, about last night. My stomach tightens. Look, we don't have to. Pretend it didn't happen, she cuts me off, her eyes flashing with something I can't quite place. Frustration? Hurt? Because it did happen, Sophie, and pretending it didn't is not going to work. I set my mug down, my nerves buzzing. I know it happened, okay? I don't know what it means. I run a hand through my hair, feeling like I'm spinning out of control. This was supposed to be an act, a way to get out of my parents' scheme. But now it's complicated, she finishes, her gaze softening. Yeah, it's really complicated. A silence settles between us, thick and charged. I want to say something, anything, but the words stick in my throat. Isabel sighs, setting her coffee on the nightstand. Listen, Sophie, I didn't plan for any of this either, but we can't just pretend our way through this anymore. She hesitates, then reaches out to touch my hand. So what do you want? I blink at her, my heart thudding painfully in my chest. What do I want? I glance at her hand on mine, at her earnest expression. I want her. That's the simple truth of it, but saying it out loud feels like stepping off a cliff. I start, my voice faltering. I want to figure this out, with you. She lets out a shaky breath, nodding. Then we figure it out, together. A beat of tension passes, and then she leans in, pressing her lips to mine. It's different this time, intentional, certain. I melt into the kiss, my hands finding her waist, pulling her closer. She tilts her head, deepening it, and everything else melts away. It's just us, wrapped up in this dizzying new reality. We break apart, both of us gasping for air. Isabel's eyes are dark, searching mine. Okay, she breathes, her lips brushing against my cheek. Let's figure this out, then. The day passes in a blur of awkward touches, stolen glances, and an underlying tension that thrums between us. We tiptoe around our new dynamic, testing the waters of what we've become. I'm not sure how to act, what to say, but every time our eyes meet, I feel that familiar heat bubbling up inside me. Later that afternoon, Isabel drops the bombshell as we're washing dishes. Your mother called, she says, casually, scrubbing a plate with a little too much force. She wants us to come over for dinner tomorrow. I nearly drop the glass in my hand. What, tomorrow? Yes, she replies, her eyes flicking to mine, testing my reaction. She said Hector and his family will be there too. My heart sinks. Of course they'll be there, but they're not going to give up on this marriage thing so easily. I grip the counter, feeling anger rise up. Of course they will. They think if they push hard enough, I'll just cave. Isabel sets the plate down, turning to face me. And will you? I stare at her, incredulous. Are you kidding me? I can't back down now. Not after us. Her shoulders relax, and she nods. Good, because I'm not going to let you go through this alone. She pauses, then adds with a smirk. And besides, we're going to have to keep up the act, right? I snort, shaking my head. Yeah, the act, but it doesn't feel like an act anymore. Not with the way my pulse quickens when she looks at me, the way I can't stop thinking about her. The next day, we arrive at my parents' house, hand in hand. The air is thick with tension as soon as we step inside. Hector and his parents are seated in the living room, along with my parents, who give us a once-over with mixed expressions. Sophie, Isabel, my mother says, her tone clipped. So glad you could make it. I force a smile, squeezing Isabel's hand. Of course, Mom, we wouldn't miss it. Hector smirks at me, his eyes darting to our intertwined hands. So he drawls, still keeping up this charade. Huh? My jaw tightens, but before I can say anything, Isabel steps forward. It's not a charade, she says coolly, her voice steady. Sophie and I are together. You can accept that or not, but it's not changing. Silence fills the room, all eyes on us. My heart hammers in my chest, but I can't help the surge of pride at Isabel's words. She's standing up for us. For me. Hector's smirk falters and he shrugs, leaning back in his chair. Well, you're making a mistake, he says dismissively, but that's your choice, I guess. Yeah, I snap, feeling a sudden surge of anger. It is my choice, and I'm choosing her. My mother's face pales, her eyes wide with disbelief. Sophie, are you sure about this? She whispers, her voice tight with desperation. I take a deep breath, glancing at Isabel. She nods slightly, giving me the strength I need. I turn back to my mother. Yes, I'm sure. A tense silence falls over the room. I hold my breath, waiting for the fallout, for the arguments, but none come, just a heavy, suffocating quiet. Then, finally, my mother sighs, her shoulders slumping. Fine, she mutters, standing up. But don't come crying to us when this falls apart. I bite back a retort, turning away as she leaves the room. Hector's parents follow, muttering under their breaths. When they're gone, I feel a weight lift off my chest. I turn to Isabel, and she pulls me into a tight hug. Well, she says, her voice shaky with relief. That went better than I expected. I laugh, burying my face in her shoulder. Yeah, better than I thought, too. We stand there for a moment, holding each other, and for the first time in weeks, I feel a glimmer of hope. We're in this together, and for now, that's enough. Back at the apartment, the euphoria of standing up to my family starts to wear off. Reality sets in. What now? What happens between us now that we've crossed this line? I watch Isabel as she busies herself in the kitchen, heating up leftovers for dinner. She hums quietly to herself, seemingly unbothered by the heavy silence between us. I lean against the counter, arms crossed, my mind a chaotic swirl of thoughts. We did it, I say, breaking the quiet. We faced them, and it worked. Yeah, she replies, glancing at me with a small, tired smile. We really did, she stirs the food absent-mindedly, not meeting my eyes. Something feels off. Like there's this unspoken thing hanging in the air, something too big to ignore. Isabel, I start cautiously, my voice tight. About all of this, where do we go from here? She freezes for a moment, then places the spoon down with a clatter, her shoulders tensing. I don't know, Sophie, she mutters, finally turning to face me. What do you want? What do I want? I echo, my heart pounding. I want to be with you. For real, the words spill out, raw and unfiltered. I mean, we've been pretending, and somewhere along the way, it stopped feeling fake. At least for me. Her eyes widen, and for a moment, I think she's going to say something, but then her expression hardens. And what if you're wrong, she snaps, her voice laced with frustration. What if you're just caught up in this whole charade and think you want something that isn't real? I step back, stunned. What? No, that's not. I think about it, Sophie, she interrupts, her voice rising. You're in this mess because you wanted to escape an arranged marriage. I went along with your lie to help you out. And now you're confusing what's real and what's not. I'm not confused, I shout, my face flushing with anger. Why are you pushing me away? Are you scared or something? Of course I'm scared, she yells back, her eyes blazing. You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to get tangled up in your life like this? I lost my job for you, Sophie. I turned my world upside down to help you. And now you're telling me it's because you've suddenly realized you want me. I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. She's right. I dragged her into this mess. I pushed us into this chaotic situation. But I can't shake the truth that's been building inside me. I've fallen for her and I can't ignore it anymore. I don't know how to prove it to you, I say, my voice dropping to a whisper. But I do want you. Not as part of some act, not as a way out. I just want you. Isabel lets out a harsh laugh, running a hand through her hair. You're unbelievable, you know that? You think this is all some grand romance, but it's not. This is real life, and in real life, things don't just magically work out. Then tell me, I challenge, stepping forward. Do you feel nothing for me? All this time, all these moments we've shared, do they mean nothing to you? She falters, her eyes flickering with something I can't quite read. She opens her mouth, then closes it, turning away from me. It's not that simple, she says quietly, her voice breaking. Feelings aren't enough to fix everything. I feel my chest tighten, fear and frustration bubbling up inside me. You're right, I admit. Feelings aren't enough, but they're a start. And if we don't at least try, then what was all of this for? She slumps against the counter, her back to me, her head hanging. Sophie, I'm scared, she admits, her voice trembling. Scared of falling for you. Scared of what it could mean if this doesn't work out. I've already lost so much because of this. Because of us. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I step closer, reaching out hesitantly to touch her shoulder. I know you're scared, I whisper. I am too, but I don't want to live in fear. I want to see where this goes for real. No more pretending. She stays silent for a moment, then slowly turns around to face me, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and longing. I don't know if I can do this, she admits. I don't know if I can take the risk. I swallow hard, my heart hammering. I'm not asking you to jump in without thinking. I'm asking you to take one step. With me. She looks at me, her gaze piercing right through to my core. I hold my breath, waiting for her response, the room feeling like it's closing in on us. Then she sighs, closing her eyes. One step, she murmurs. I can do one step. Relief floods through me, but it's mixed with a swirl of fear and uncertainty. I take her hands in mine, squeezing gently. Okay, one step. We'll figure out the rest as we go. She nods, her grip on my hands tightening. Okay, she says, her voice barely above a whisper. But you have to promise me one thing. Anything, I reply quickly, desperate to hold on to this fragile moment. No more lies, she says, her eyes locking onto mine. If we're doing this, we're doing it honestly. No more hiding, no more pretending. I nod, feeling a sense of resolve settle over me. No more lies, I promise. A beat passes, then she releases my hands and turns back to the stove, stirring the now forgotten leftovers. Dinner's probably ruined, she mutters, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. I laugh, the tension in the room easing just a little. It doesn't matter. We'll order takeout. I step beside her, our arms brushing as I reach for my phone. And maybe talk more. Figure out what our next step is. She glances at me, a small, tentative smile on her lips. Yeah, I'd like that. As I pull up the takeout menu on my phone, a sense of calm washes over me. It's still messy, still uncertain, but we're in this together, for real this time. And that's enough for now. Weeks pass, and we settle into this new, uncertain rhythm. Isabel and I are together now, not as some act, but for real. We eat dinner, watch movies, and even have our share of silly arguments over who forgot to buy toilet paper. It feels normal, almost too normal, but underneath it all, I can sense the tension bubbling just beneath the surface. Then everything starts to fall apart. One evening, I come home to find Isabel sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a letter. The second I see her face, my heart drops. She looks pale, eyes hollowed with some unspoken fear. What is it, I ask, my voice already trembling. She doesn't respond at first, just slides the letter across the table. I pick it up, scanning the page. My stomach twists as I read the bold letters, eviction notice. What the hell, I choke out, glancing up at her. How did this happen? We're behind on rent, she says quietly, rubbing her temples. I've been using my savings, but it's not enough. My job search isn't going well, and modeling gigs aren't paying you like they used to. I drop into the chair across from her, my mind racing. This can't be happening. We've been scraping by, managing to keep the facade of normalcy, but this is too real, too immediate. We'll figure something out, I blurt, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. We just need to. Need to what, Sophie, she snaps, her eyes flashing with anger. Pull more money out of thin air. Lie to your parents some more. Face it, we're stuck. Her words hit me like a slap. I bite my lip, struggling to find a retort, but nothing comes. She's right. We're cornered, and there's no easy way out. Maybe I should just go back, I say, the thought turning my stomach, but I force it out. I could marry Hector. It would solve everything. They'd get off our backs, and we'd have the money to keep this place. No, Isabel's voice is hard, final. You can't just throw your life away because we're in a tough spot. Then what do you suggest, I snap, frustration boiling over. You keep telling me what I can't do, but you don't have any better ideas. She glares at me, standing up so fast that her chair scrapes against the floor. You think I don't know that, she shouts, her voice cracking. I'm scared too, Sophie. I'm scared of losing this place, losing you, losing everything. The room goes silent, her words echoing in the air. We're both breathing hard, the fight draining out of us. I look at her, my heart aching. I'm scared too, I admit, my voice barely above a whisper. But what choice do we have? She stares at me, her eyes glistening. We fight, she says, her voice wavering. We fight for this, for us. Even if it feels impossible. I slump back in my chair, feeling the weight of it all pressing down on me. Isabel, I start, swallowing the lump in my throat. What if fighting isn't enough? She sinks down into her chair, her face falling into her hands. I don't know, she admits, her voice muffled. I can't lose this, I can't lose you. I get up and walk over to her, kneeling down beside her chair. Hey, I murmur, gently prying her hands from her face. You're not losing me. Not unless you push me away. She looks at me, tears brimming in her eyes. Sophie, I don't know how to keep this together. We keep it together by sticking with each other, I say, brushing a tear from her cheek. We don't let this break us. She nods, sniffling, and I pull her into a hug, holding on tight. For a long moment, we just sit there on the kitchen floor, clinging to each other like lifelines. After a while, she pulls back, wiping her eyes. Okay, she says shakily. Then we need a plan. Right, I stand up, helping her to her feet. First, we need to find some way to bring in more money. Isabel nods, pacing the small kitchen. I'll keep applying for jobs. Anything I can find, she glances at me. And you? I swallow, glancing at the eviction notice still on the table. I'll see if I can pick up more modeling gigs, or maybe. Hey. She stops pacing, eyeing me warily. Maybe what? I take a deep breath. Maybe I talk to my parents? Her eyes widen and she shakes her head. No, we're not running back to them for help. We've got to do this on our own. I know, I reply quickly. But I can't just sit here and watch us fall apart without at least trying everything. I won't ask them for money, but maybe I can negotiate with them. Buy us some time. Isabel looks at me, conflicted. And what if they use it as leverage to force you into that marriage? Then I'll say no, I say, more confidently than I feel. I'll tell them that I've made my choice, and it's you. She studies my face, searching for any hint of doubt. Finally, she sighs, rubbing her temples. Fine, she mutters, if you think you can handle it. I reply, trying to convince myself as much as her. I have to. That night we lie in bed, neither of us sleeping. I can feel the tension rolling off of Isabel in waves, her back turned to me. I want to reach out, to pull her close and tell her it'll be okay. But the truth is, I don't know if it will be. I stare at the ceiling, the shadows dancing in the faint moonlight. Is this it? Is this how everything falls apart? I've never felt so close to losing everything, and the fear coils tight around my chest. I glance at Isabel's silhouette, my heart aching. I can't lose this. I can't lose her. As dawn breaks, I make up my mind. I'll face my parents. I'll fight for us. I might be scared out of my mind, but for once fear won't dictate my choices. Not anymore? With a deep breath, I reach out, placing a hand on Isabel's shoulder. She stirs, turning to face me, her eyes tired and questioning. Tomorrow, I murmur, my voice steady. I'm going to talk to them. We'll figure this out. I promise. She nods, her eyes searching mine for a long moment. Then she reaches out, taking my hand in hers. Okay, she whispers. But just Be careful. I will, I say, squeezing her hand, I promise. We lie there holding on to each other as the morning light filters into the room. It's terrifying and uncertain, but at least we're not facing it alone. And for now, that's enough. The next day arrives far too quickly. I stand outside my parents' house, staring at the front door like it's the entrance to a war zone. My palms are slick with sweat, my stomach churning with dread. You've got this, I whisper to myself, swallowing the fear clawing at my insides. For Isabel. For us. I push open the door and step inside. The air is thick with tension as I make my way to the living room, where I find my parents seated on the couch. My mother glances up, eyes narrowing at the sight of me. Sophie, she says coolly, to what do we owe this visit? I take a deep breath, steadying myself. I need to talk to you both. About the arranged marriage. And about Isabel. My father raises an eyebrow, setting down his newspaper. So you've come to your senses, he asks, his voice flat, finally ready to do what's necessary for this family. No, the word slips out, sharp and unyielding. My hands tremble, but I clench them into fists, grounding myself. I'm not here to agree to any marriage. I'm here to tell you that it's not happening, ever. My mother's lips press into a thin line. You are making a mistake, Sophie. This arrangement could secure our family's future. It's not about you, it's about all of us. No, I snap, my voice rising despite the knot in my throat. This is about you trying to control my life. You think you can just dictate my future, but you can't. Not anymore. Sophie, my father begins, but I cut him off, the words tumbling out before I can stop them. I love Isabel's silence crashes over the room, and I feel the weight of it pressing on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I love her, I repeat, forcing myself to meet their stunned gazes. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise just to make you happy. My mother's eyes flash with anger. Is this some kind of joke? A phase you're going through to rebel against us? No, I say firmly, my voice steady. It's not a phase. It's real. And I'm done pretending. I know this isn't what you wanted for me, but it's what I want. My father sighs, rubbing his temples. You think love is all you need? Love doesn't pay the bills, Sophie? Love doesn't save companies from bankruptcy. I feel a wave of anger surge through me, hot and fierce. Maybe not, but it's my life. And I'm choosing to live it on my terms, not as some pawn in your business deals. You're being reckless, my mother snaps, standing up. Do you even understand what you're risking? Your future? Our family's legacy. I take a deep breath, every nerve in my body screaming at me to back down, to retreat. But I don't. I understand perfectly, I say, my voice quiet but firm, and I'm still choosing Isabel. My parents exchange a glance, their faces masks of cold fury and disbelief. My father opens his mouth, ready to argue, but my mother raises a hand, stopping him. She turns to me, eyes hard. Then get out, she says flatly. If you want to throw your life away, do it without our support. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, knocking the air out of my lungs. I stand there, stunned, as the reality of what she's saying sinks in. They're cutting me off, for real. Fine, I manage to choke out, my voice trembling. If that's what you want. But don't think for a second that I'm coming back crawling when this gets hard. My father shakes his head, looking at me with something that almost resembles pity. You're choosing the hard path, Sophie, one you may not be able to come back from. Maybe, I say, turning on my heel, but at least it's my path. I walk out, heart pounding in my chest, every step heavier than the last. When I step outside, the weight of the confrontation crashes down on me. I lean against the doorframe, gasping for breath. Tears sting at the corners of my eyes, but I blink them away, setting my jaw. I made my choice. Now I have to live with it. The drive back to the apartment is a blur, my thoughts spiraling in a chaotic whirl of fear and anger. By the time I reach the front door, I feel like I'm going to collapse. I push the door open, stepping inside to find Isabel sitting on the couch, her eyes flicking up to meet mine. How did it go, she asks, her voice cautious, already sensing the storm brewing inside me. I close the door behind me, leaning against it, the reality crashing over me in waves. I told them, I say, my voice hollow, told them I love you, and that I won't marry Hector. Her eyes widen and she stands, crossing the room to me, and, they disown me. I breathe out, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. Said if I want to throw my life away, then I'm on my own. Isabel's face crumples and she pulls me into a tight hug, her arms wrapping around me like a lifeline. I'm so sorry, she whispers, her voice choked with emotion. I'm so sorry. I cling to her, my body shaking. It's okay, I say, even though it's not. Even though I feel like I'm breaking apart inside. I had to do it. For us. She pulls back, looking at me with those eyes that see right through every wall I've built. You didn't have to do it alone, she says fiercely. I'm here. We're in this together. I nod, swallowing hard, trying to keep it together. I know, I murmur, but now it's just us, and we have to make it work. We will, she says, determination hardening her gaze. We're going to figure this out, step by step. I'm not leaving you, Sophie. A shuddering breath escapes me, and I lean forward, pressing my forehead against hers. I know, and that's what scares me. She cups my face in her hands, forcing me to meet her eyes. Then, let's be scared together. But let's not let that fear stop us from trying. I nod, a shaky smile tugging at my lips. Okay, I whisper. Together. We stand there, wrapped up in each other, the weight of everything pressing down on us. It's terrifying, knowing there's no safety net, no easy way out, but it's also liberating. For the first time, I'm making a choice for me, not for anyone else. Isabel pulls me into another hug, her lips brushing against my ear. I'm proud of you, she whispers, and those words sink into my heart, grounding me. I close my eyes, holding onto her tightly. We've got this, I murmur, half to her, half to myself. We'll make it work. Damn right we will, she says, her voice steady and full of resolve. And in that moment, I realize that this is what love is, choosing to fight for each other, even when everything seems impossible. We're standing on the edge of uncertainty, but at least we're facing it together. And right now, that's enough. The days following the confrontation with my parents are a blur of tension and uncertainty. Isabel and I spend hours sitting at the tiny kitchen table, staring at bills, job listings, anything that might help us make it through the month. The eviction notice is taped to the fridge, a constant reminder of the ticking clock. We barely speak about what happened with my parents. It's too raw, too painful. Instead, we focus on the practicalities of surviving, finding extra shifts, scraping together funds. We live in a state of quiet determination, each doing our best to make it work. But the strain shows there's an underlying tension between us, a fear that this might not be enough. One night, I'm lying in bed, staring at the ceiling while Isabel works late on her laptop. She's been hunting for freelance gigs, anything that might bring in extra cash. I listen to the sound of her fingers tapping on the keys, a rhythmic reminder that we're still fighting, still trying. But tonight, something in me snaps. Isabel, I say, my voice cutting through the quiet. She glances up, eyes tired. Yeah. I sit up, hugging my knees to my chest. We need to talk. The words feel heavy, and I hate that I have to say them, but I can't keep ignoring this. We've been so focused on just getting by that we haven't really talked about us. She closes the laptop, setting it aside. Okay, she says cautiously, crossing her arms as if bracing for impact. Let's talk. What's on your mind? I take a deep breath, feeling the tension coil in my stomach. I know things are hard right now. Everything is a mess, and I hate that I dragged you into this. But I need to know. Are we doing this because we're fighting to stay together, or just because we're afraid of falling apart? Her eyes soften and she uncrosses her arms, moving closer to me on the bed. Sophie, she begins, her voice gentle but firm. We're in this together not because we're scared, but because we want to make this work. At least, that's how I feel. I feel my heart lighten, a flicker of hope breaking through the exhaustion. You're sure, I ask, searching her face for any sign of doubt. Because I don't want you to feel trapped in this, because of me. She reaches out, taking my hand in hers. I'm not trapped, she says softly, her thumb rubbing slow circles on my skin. I'm choosing to be here. Even if it's hard, even if we're facing eviction and have no idea what's next, I'm here because I want to be. I let out a shaky breath, relief flooding through me. I want this too, I whisper. Even if it means living on ramen and bargain bin groceries for a while. She laughs, a genuine, warm sound that makes my chest ache with love for her. Then let's do it, she says, her eyes sparkling with determination. So let's make this our life. Not the life we're stuck with, but the life we're building together. I nod, a smile tugging at my lips. Together, I echo. It's a small word, but it carries the weight of everything we've fought for. The next morning, we sit down with a notepad and a cheap cup of instant coffee, sketching out a plan. We go through our options, our skills, anything we can leverage to get us through this. Isabel makes calls, setting up interviews for freelance projects. I pick up extra modeling gigs, even if it means doing jobs I wouldn't have considered before. We hustle, we scrap, we keep pushing. One evening, I get a call from an agency. They have a job for me, a real one, not the small-time gigs I've been doing lately. It's a big shoot, something that could cover our rent for a couple of months if it goes well. I glance at Isabel, who's watching me from across the room, hope flickering in her eyes. Yeah, I say into the phone, my heart pounding. I'll take it. When I hang up, she's already at my side, grabbing my hands. You got it, she asks, her eyes wide with excitement. I nod, a grin spreading across my face. I got it. She laughs, pulling me into a tight hug. We're going to be okay, she whispers, and for the first time in weeks, I believe it. The shoot goes better than I could have hoped. The photographer is impressed, and by the end of the day, they're talking about future projects, potential contracts. I feel like I'm walking on air when I get home, clutching the check in my hand. We're covered, I say breathlessly, holding up the check as I step into the apartment. Isabel looks up from the kitchen, her eyes widening. You're serious. Dead serious, I laugh, and the sound echoes through the room, lifting the oppressive weight that's hung over us for so long. We're covered for the next few months. She crosses the room in 2 strides, grabbing me by the shoulders. Sophie, you did it, she breathes, her eyes shining with pride. We did it. I grin, feeling warmth spread through my chest. Yeah, we did. We collapse onto the couch, laughter bubbling up between us. For the first time, the future doesn't seem so bleak. It's still uncertain, still full of challenges, but we're facing it together, and that makes all the difference. Now, Isabel says, a mischievous glint in her eyes, how about we celebrate? We might not have much, but I've got a stash of cookies I've been saving for a special occasion. I laugh, shaking my head. You and your cookies? Hey, don't knock them until you've tried them, she retorts, standing up and heading to the kitchen. This is our victory feast. She returns with the cookies and 2 mugs of hot cocoa, plopping down beside me. We sit in comfortable silence, nibbling on cookies and sipping cocoa, the reality of our small victory sinking in. It's not just about paying the rent, it's about surviving the storm we've been through. As we finish up, she leans against my shoulder, her hand slipping into mine. We're really doing this, aren't we, she murmurs. I turn to look at her, my heart swelling with a fierce love. Yeah, I say softly, we are. One step at a time. She smiles, and I can see the future reflected in her eyes, not perfect, not easy, but ours. To us, she says, raising her mug in a toast. To us, I reply, clinking my mug against hers. We sit there, the city lights flickering outside the window, wrapped in our small bubble of warmth. And for the first time in what feels like forever, I feel a deep, quiet certainty settle over me. We've made it this far, and we'll keep making it together. This is our beginning, not our end, and as I glance at Isabel, I know that whatever comes next, we'll face it side by side. Months pass and slowly life starts to settle into something resembling normalcy. Our apartment is still small, the bills are still a monthly challenge, and we're still figuring things out. But there's a new rhythm to our days, a rhythm that belongs to us. We've made a life out of the chaos, brick by brick, one small victory at a time. Isabel lands a steady freelance gig that pays well enough to keep us afloat, and I start getting more modeling work, some of which even opens up opportunities beyond just showing up for photo shoots. We talk about the future in bits and pieces, dreams, fears, plans, building a picture of what we want for ourselves and each other. One evening, we're curled up on the sofa, sharing a bowl of popcorn and watching a terrible rom-com. It's become a sort of tradition for us, a way to unwind after long days. I glance at her as she laughs at a particularly cheesy scene, her eyes lighting up with that spark I've come to love so much. Isabel, I say, my voice quieter than I intended. She looks at me, raising an eyebrow, her smile fading as she senses the seriousness in my tone. There's something I've been wanting to ask you. She sits up, turning to face me fully. Okay, she says slowly. What's on your mind? I take a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. This is it. The words I've been turning over in my head for weeks, the ones that keep me up at night with both excitement and fear. Move in with me. You know, her brow furrows in confusion. I already live with you, she says, half laughing, half serious. No, I say quickly, shaking my head. Let's make this official. Not just roommates or some couple faking it to get by. I want us to build a home together. For real. Oh. Her eyes widen and she opens her mouth, but no words come out. For a moment, fear knots in my stomach. What if I've pushed too fast? What if she's not ready? But then, a slow smile spreads across her face. You mean, like a permanent, no more pretending we're in this forever kind of thing? Yeah, I breathe out, my pulse quickening. Exactly that. She laughs, a warm, rich sound that fills the room, and she throws her arms around my neck, nearly knocking the popcorn bowl to the floor. Yes, she says into my ear, her voice trembling with excitement. Yes, let's do it. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding, relief and joy flooding through me. You sure, I ask, pulling back to look at her, because once we do this, there's no going back. She cups my face in her hands, her eyes shining with certainty. I've never been more sure of anything, she says softly. You're my person, Sophie. Let's make this our home. The next few weeks fly by in a whirlwind of packing, moving furniture, and deciding where everything goes. It's exhausting, chaotic, and perfect. We argue over the most ridiculous things, whether the sofa should go near the window or by the wall, what color the curtain should be, but every disagreement ends in laughter and compromise. It's messy and beautiful, this life we're creating together. One night, as we're unpacking the last of the boxes, Isabel finds an old photo of us, taken back when this whole fake relationship was just starting. She holds it up, her eyes flicking to me. Look at us, she says, shaking her head with a smirk. We had no idea what we were getting into, did we? I laugh, taking the photo from her hands. Not a clue, I agree. But I wouldn't change a thing. She smiles, leaning in to kiss me slow and soft. Neither would I, she murmurs against my lips. We've built something real out of all that craziness. I nod, feeling warmth bloom in my chest. Yeah, we really did. I set the photo on the shelf right in the middle where we can see it every day. A reminder of where we started and how far we've come. We collapse onto the sofa, the room now filled with our things, our choices. It's no longer just an apartment. It's our place, a space we've made our own. She curls up against me, resting her head on my shoulder, and I wrap my arm around her, holding her close. What now, she asks quietly, her fingers playing with the hem of my shirt. I shrug, a grin spreading across my face. Now we live, we work, we fight, we laugh, we build this life together, one step at a time. She hums in agreement, her eyes closing as she snuggles deeper into my embrace. Sounds perfect. We sit there in the quiet, the city lights casting a warm glow through the window. The future still holds its challenges, we know that, but we're not afraid anymore. We've faced the worst together and come out stronger on the other side. As I look down at Isabel, peacefully resting in my arms, I feel a deep, quiet contentment settle over me. This is what I've been searching for, not perfection, not some fantasy, but real love. The kind you build through laughter, tears, fights, and everything in between. This is our ending and our beginning all at once. A story that started with lies and fake smiles, now built on trust and truth. I close my eyes, holding her tight, a smile on my lips. Whatever comes next, we'll face it side by side. Together. Always.